Hello and welcome to New Mexico Day Trips. I'm your host, Shelley Carney.
And I'm your other host, Toby Eunice.
That's right. Hi. Tonight we're going to be talking
Are you running a
about.
little slow here? What's going on?
Well, I was waiting to see if you were going to say something.
No, I'll say something when I have to do my
We're
housekeeping.
going to talk about Fort Craig in New Mexico, and we're also going to share some pictures from some visitors who just came to visit us this week, and they brought some great pictures to share. So we'll take a look at those.
Let me give you a hint. Monument Valley, Death Valley, Yosemite Valley, Southern Yosemite, Bryce Canyon, and Muir Woods. Pictures, baby. We're talking pictures.
Yay.
All right, let me take care of housekeeping because I know how much you
Housekeeping, you want the house?
don't like that. Oh, that's the Women Conquer Business banner. Wow, that's embarrassing.
It should be green. That's why they're different colors.
All right. I would appreciate it if before you leave this evening, you would like our video. YouTube likes it when you like our video. Share it with your family, your friends, your neighbors, your business associates, the entirety of your social network so that we can grow the channel. Finally, if you are not already a subscriber, this would be the ideal time to subscribe. You do that by clicking on the subscribe button. And then when you see the notifications bell, click on that notifications bell. And that way, every time we start a live stream, you'll be immediately informed. And as a result,
in the know,
ladies and gentlemen, because we know there is nothing better in life than being in the know.
In the know. Well, I don't know. I'd take a whole lot of money and still not know much. That'd be okay.
That is not the American way, my dear.
Oh.
We have a comment.
Hello, friends from Colorado Memorial Finishing LLC.
So we should just call him CMF.
Well, that's just too much to remember.
All right. Okay, so what's up for tonight?
I told you.
Am I taking the lead on this or what?
Well, let's look at the pictures that our friends brought us.
Okay.
Family, actually. And we'll go from there.
All right. So let's do that first.
Yeah.
Boom, okay, so here's the deal. Our friends are vivid, not vivid is not the word. Photographers, they're not vivacious. They're, it's a V word. Help me out here. I'm an old man.
It's a V word. Voluminous? Vociferous?
Vociferous? No, that's not vociferous.
No?
They take a lot of pictures. Thank you. And so what I discovered myself doing, prolific.
That doesn't start with a V.
I know.
Very, very prolific. How about that?
Let's start at the top. So this is Monument Valley. Monument Valley, as you guys know, is in Utah. Actually, you may not know, but it is in Utah. And as they were traveling through, they got the opportunity to take all these great pictures. But there are so many of them, and so they're so good that what I found myself doing is kind of scrolling through the pictures and picking one that I liked. How beautiful is that lake? And I'll bet you that water is crystal clear. It does look like the other lakes in the southwest and southwest. It's down like everybody else. But this one is just kind of pretty the way it is. I mean, it's a good looking lake. I don't know what it is. Good picture. These are our friends right there. Let me see what else. There were some beautiful cloud pictures. So we're just trying to pick the ones.
Snow.
Tell me, I love to look at this panorama. That to me says Western states right there. That's what our panoramas are like. Yeah, that's why they call it Monument Valley. There's cute little clouds up there.
Poof.
Clouds are cool.
Toot toot.
Look at this. And that dirt that looks red, that dirt that looks red is that kind of red.
The dirt?
Yeah, the dirt. You know why I said that?
No.
I have a story.
Oh, you got a story.
So there was
you should get into the screen.
There was a man that used to do handy person work for my mother after my father passed away.
Yeah.
And his name was Mr. Martinez. I'm sure he had a first name, but I have no idea what it is because I always called him Mr. Martinez.
Uh-huh.
But he did so, in Santa Fe, we have plaster on the outside walls. whether it's block or adobe, they plaster. And every once in a while, some of the plaster would, I don't know, weathering or whatever, it would fall off. So he would come over and he would replaster any spots that required it on behalf of my mother. He never charged her a penny. Never, as far as I know. Anyway, I mean, he might have charged her a whole bunch and I didn't know it, right? But as he mixed everything by hand. This was before bagged plaster. So you had the plaster, you had the concrete, you had the sand, and then you had water. But I remember that whenever he had the sand part, he would say, I'm going to mix it with the dirt. Oh, okay. So how am I going to do that?
I don't know.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do.
This just in.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take it off the screen like that. All right. So
dirt.
Dirt. Oh, I'm sorry. And he didn't say dirt. He said dirt. He's going to mix it with the dirt all the time. And so when I said that, that goes back to that childhood memory, 84 years ago when I was just
84.
Yeah, I'm getting
You're
older
not even that old.
I know. I feel like
Must have been another lifetime.
So we're going to go to Death Valley, and I'm going to be cautious here because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the pictures that are wow. God, there's a lot of choices here, guys.
Dirt.
Let me see. Okay, here's the 3 Death Valley pictures I'm going to pick for you. Okay, so hold on. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to share that, and then I'm going to show you this one, and it does look like Death Valley, doesn't it? And that one, which really looks. But I remember in Death Valley, which is lower in the valley, I remember the mountains. The mountains are very sharp-edged mountains, I recall. And then there's this one. So they've done a lot of traveling through the west and southwest. Okay, so I got to take it off again. And then we're going to go to Yosemite. So these are the pictures are from Yosemite. And for those of you guys are going to recognize a couple of these locations because they're climbing locations as well. And so right there, that has a name. I can't remember, but it's a big climbing location here.
Is that the Capitan?
Capitan, El Capitan.
Yep. That was in Star Trek, wasn't it?
I'm not a science fiction person. So that's down Yosemite Valley. That I know. Isn't that beautiful? So can you imagine having all the time you want? Well, not all the time you want. They have a limited amount of time, but being able to visit all these locations on a single trip, which reminds me, we're going to be talking about something tonight that we think is an exciting new addition to what we're doing. So this is southern Yosemite. And for those of you who know Yosemite, they're known for their redwoods. So let me do this one. Okay. So you can see the Yosemite redwoods, not sequoia redwoods. And so it's interesting because some of these locations, they had been experiencing forest fires over the fire season. And some of the, I know some of the sequoia were slightly affected. I don't know. I forgot to ask them if any of the redwoods were affected by the fires. That looks like it's just a natural, the result of Mother Nature. Okay, now I'm going to move you over to Bryce Canyon. And this is where really, for again, any of you guys have been at Bryce Canyon, you'll have a memory of all these locations. But let me see if I can find one that says Bryce Canyon without. Okay, so these two to me say Bryce Canyon. This is how I remember Bryce Canyon. So do that and end the stream. So that one says Bryce Canyon to me. And this one says Bryce Canyon to me. So there's stories in each one of those little caves.
Nooks and crannies.
Nooks and crannies. Yeah, there are stories to be told. Okay, now we're going to go, last but not least, we're going to Muir Woods, also redwoods. So let me find the best ones in here. And it's this, it looks like there's a combination. And I wish I could share all of these with you guys, but first of all, it would be a very long show. We could dedicate an entire show to the work that they've done here. Prolific, is that the right word? Is that what we decided upon? Prolific photographers. So let's do these three right here. Okay. So if you ever get to Muir Woods, named after John Muir, can I add that to the stream?
The mountains are calling and I must go.
Oh, look at you. Wow.
Yeah. Look at me. What? It's a John Muir
Redwoods
quote that's on a t-shirt.
So this is another effect of the drought. Yeah. So anyway, we're very happy to have them here. We are thoroughly enjoying their company. They will be leaving tomorrow, so we're making the best of it. We had can I tell them about the dinner? So we had a dinner tonight, and we were served. Hang on. He sent me the name.
Can you pronounce it?
Probably not. It's Portuguese. I'm going to massacre this. It's bacalhau. Bacalhau.
Yeah.
Com natas. Natas?
Natas.
That's what it looks like to me.
Bacalhau. When they say it, it sounds like bacalhau.
But it's not a clee.
I know, but that's what it sounds like when they say it.
It's a traditional Portuguese dish made with salted cod, dried salted cod, and you have to rehydrate the cod in order to cook with it. And honestly, it is have you ever been like with your grandma and she cooks all day? I don't mean to imply that's grandma. Have you ever been with a family member and they cook all day and literally work at this a dish all day and then serve it to you at night, and you don't have enough gratitude for the amount of work that they've done. There's not enough gratitude. That's how this was. It was an all-day effort, and it was so good that I think I had 2.5.
Oh, Lorraine says my grandmother used to make that.
Oh,
she was from Italy.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's creamed cod with cream
and potatoes.
Is what it means.
And fried potatoes, then they mix it up with a cream and then they bake it in addition to that. And one of my sons-in-law is half Portuguese. His mother is Portuguese, still talks to his mother. So the next time I see him, he's always making dishes that have a Portuguese kind of flavor to them. So I'm going to tell him about this one, see if he's ever had it or made it or whatever.
It snowed in Castle Rock last night.
What?
That's what it says.
Wow. Castle Rock. Okay. So like I said, I wish we could show you all the pictures. It would take an entire show. And it's
not New Mexico.
And it's not New Mexico. So we wouldn't be able to call ourselves New Mexico day trips. We'd have to call ourselves people who are traveling through and lending us their not beautiful pictures. So,
but let's move on to
Fort Craig. Our last trip. I guess the best way to describe Fort Craig is you have to look for it. It is truly off the beaten path. But like as usual, we had a mix of good and bad fortune. The bad fortune was that the day was predicted to be partially sunny. What do they call it? Partly sunny. And it was like mostly cloudy. There was no partly sunny about it until around, I don't know, I'm going to say around 4:30, 5 in the evening. And then we got a little bit of sunshine. And that was the other thing too. It was windy all day. And you'll see some of that in the footage. You'll see and
you'll hear it.
Yeah. Shelley tried to do a selfie while she was doing the time lapse. And you can barely hear it because I put it in the film anyway. But you can tell there's a wind. The film. It's now a film, huh? Next thing you know, we'll be entering it into competitions.
Oh yeah, of course.
Screens.
Oh, so we show
So
these?
yeah, let's talk about these first.
Okay. While we were there is a very small visitor center run by a host, and we did interview him. And he had a few things for sale, including this book about Fort Craig. And it's full of great information and some photographs and some other
Maps.
maps and graphs and things. So Toby's reading up on Fort Craig, learning all about it and all the stories. And we got this book.
But here, show
Oh.
this first.
And Toby got this.
So that's the Fort Craig challenge coin, and they didn't have any pins. And I don't know whether you recall, I mentioned to you that when we went to the VLA, they didn't have any pins. The last time I was at the VLA, I bought a VLA pin, but they had the same thing. The VLA had challenge coins. So I'm starting to wonder if all the federal government locations are changing over to challenge coins rather than pins. And you can't really put a magnet on them and hang them on your whiteboard because they have things on the back as well. They remind us of the coins that we made for A Gypsy's Kiss, except they're bigger. So we may have some of those done. It's a very attractive coin. Got some weight to it, you know. And well, I don't want to say it was expensive. It was $20, but it was worth it as far as I was concerned.
Toby likes those things. And then we also got this book, and it's called Detour New Mexico, Historic Destinations and Natural Wonders. And it's written in trails that you can go like from Bernalillo to Los Alamos, and it hits all the high spots, and it talks about the drive, and it has little maps in it. And so we're going to be taking some of these trips, and we'll, kind of go along with each chapter has got another detour.
And it's interesting because it's very different from what we've been doing on New Mexico day trips. New Mexico day trips up until this point is we pick a target location, we go to that location and, beat it to death digitally. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, we collect a lot of footage. This one is very different. It's about taking the route and driving through a variety of locations that you would probably stop for no more than, I'm going to say, a half hour. And kind of it, and we looked on YouTube, and there are other people that do these constant travel kind of videos as opposed to what we do, which is to go to one location. These guys, there's a guy that does it with Route 66, for example, Route 66 through Arizona. He does it all in one day, and his stops, although he stops at the highlights, he tends to spend, I don't know, 5, maybe 7 minutes at each location, kind of talking about it or shooting it, because sometimes his father goes with him, and they stop for a hamburger. And out of that scene, you'll see the outside of the hamburger stand that has this Route 66 prominence. And then they take a little bit of his dad tasting the hamburger and making a culinary decision on it. So it's a very different style from what we've been doing. And I think we're going to try 1, maybe 2 over the next couple of weeks. And the reason is weather's starting to move in. So it's not going to be the kind of thing that we can go someplace for an entire day and not expect to freeze in the process. So we're going to try a couple, and we're going to try one for this weekend. And then after that, we have Dia de los Muertos coming up. And so we're going to do a regular show on Dia de los Muertos here in Albuquerque. And then we're going to try another one of these little travel log things. I think I'm going to like them. We bought some additional equipment to make it easier. And we're going to try it out and see how we like them.
But first, Fort Craig.
Let's see. What is Lorraine says?
Fort Craig.
So you'll hear in the video that Fort Craig has this wonderful kind of amazing history. It was first established because the Mexican government made an agreement, I shouldn't say a deal, with the American government to provide protection for the Mexican citizens that were moving north from Mexico all the way to Santa Fe. It was called the Royal Road. And that's why it was put out there. And that's why it's kind of off the beaten path. Because if you've ever seen a map of the Royal Road, it is off the beaten path. It's, but that's what they were there for. Then as the Civil War, it was there before the Civil War started. In the middle of the Civil War, there was some Johnny Rebs that made it out here, and there were a couple of battles. and again, our Mark, the guy that we interviewed, is going to talk a little bit about those. But it was a very cool battle, and it had this one unique feature that I'm going to let him
I would
tell you about.
imagine that they thought it was very cool at the time.
You mean the Civil War thing?
Yeah, Battle of Valverde.
Right, the Battle of Valverde, which was the combination of an attack on the fort and then a battle that took place. And you're going to see Valverde, some video of the Valverde
I'm surprised you're
Mesa.
saying it that way.
As opposed to what?
With the Spanish accent.
Oh, with the Valverde.
Yes.
It's Valverde. Okay. We're just going to speak Texan tonight. Let's see. Good.
Right, so
what's going on here?
they're just
Fidel
saying
Con
hi to
says-
each other. Oh, it got to La Luz.
Oh.
It's going to water his
It's going to water his
trees.
pecan trees. Yeah. All right. Are you ready for some video?
Let's do it.
All right. Watch the video, and then if you guys have any questions, we'll answer them. So we're going to do this with the video as opposed to going to YouTube. I really like this new feature. I'm going to put us down here in the corner. How's that?
Okay. That works. There's a garage. Shelley Carney. That's us. Fort Craig. I know you're going to put all the titles right there.
There's more. I'm going to go back to.
No, don't go back.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, there's more titles. Oh, yeah. Okay. We just zoom along. That's how fast it feels when you're having a good time. Hi, it's me, and we're on the road for our New Mexico day trip to Fort Craig. Fort Craig was a Civil War era fort. It took part in the Civil War and also in quelling Indian raids on settlers throughout the 1800s. And I don't believe there's going to be a whole lot there when we get there, but we'll see what we see. It's a historic site, so well, at least we'll see the scenery. It's down by Socorro, so we have been doing a lot of sites around the Socorro area, and it's a pretty easy drive. I-25 takes you all the way to Socorro, so and it's only about 2 hours south of where we are. So definitely a day trip. And we're going to try some outdoor cooking today, so hopefully the weather will hold for us to make our dinner outdoors and have kind of a early picnic dinner before we do anything else. And we hope to swing by and see the wildlife preserve for the birds and see if the cranes are there. Pretty sure the ducks are there, and they have flooded the area, so we'll see if the cranes are there. We saw some cranes along Paseo del Norte in Albuquerque, so hoping that there are some cranes also in the wildlife preserve near Socorro. So we'll check all that out today. And did I miss anything?
No, you got it all. Well
Okay.
done.
So that's what we'll see. We are close to Socorro now, so you'll see a time lapse of the drive, and hopefully we don't run into any more parades today. And
Well, we don't have to go through Socorro today.
I just wanted to tell you that we were getting directions from Siri for the ride, for the drive, for the route. And then she puts it up on the screen and she says, just to let you know, you can ask me about road conditions and crashes and construction for your drive. And I was like, oh, good. Ask her about that. So Toby says, hey, Siri, tell me about the drive. Is there any construction or accidents?
On the web for the drug. Is there any construction?
Your Siri
now-
is
Check it out.
Now my Siri's answering it. But she said, oh, I can't tell you that right now because you're driving. I can't look that up for you because you're driving. And I was like, that would be like me telling Toby, oh, I can't look stuff up for you on my phone because you're driving. What does that matter? Really? So, anyway, fun with Siri. That's what we're doing today. And that's all I had to say for right now. As you can see, we have some snacks in the back. And I got a new vest. I got a new vest that you're just going to see me wearing with pockets. So I didn't have to bring a purse or a fanny pack today because I have pockets in my vest that Toby got for me. So I'll model that for you a little later. That's all I have for now, and we'll talk soon. And there's the vest.
We never did get you to model it.
Well, I did wear it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool Wi-Fi. Hi.
Come on in, look around.
Thank you. I'd like to
Ask
get
questions.
my name is Toby, and this is my partner, Shelley Carney.
Okay.
We have a show called New Mexico Day Trips. We're out here.
Oh, okay.
We're out here doing a story on Fort Craig,
Okay.
and we wondered if you had about 5 minutes to do an interview.
I know a lot about this fort.
I was hoping that would be true, and I'd like to learn about it from you.
If you have some specific questions,
I have some specific questions,
Okay.
but they are not going to be questions that you haven't answered already.
so I'm Mark Grenstead. I'm the host here at Fort Craig, and the BLM is the overseers of the complex, basically. We are 4.5 miles off of Highway 25, east of Highway 25, between Socorro and San Marcel. So this fort was established in 1854 and went to 1885. 2 years it was down from 1878 to 1879.
That's the guardhouse. Guardhouse. And the Sally Port.
Fort Craig's was initially established in 1854. It was built in 1853, and it went through 1885 with 2 years of it being closed down, 1878 and 1879, because the Indian Wars had kind of died off a little bit. So, and then it picked back up after late 1879. So this fort in particular is special to me because it was my mom's favorite fort. She was one of the historians for the El Camino Real forts. This included several forts up and down the El Camino Real. These forts were put in place because of the 1848 Mexican-American War Treaty. the Mexicans requested that the United States would provide protection for the inhabitants that were already here and the ones traveling up and down the El Camino Real. So my mom was very versed in this fort. It was her favorite fort. And we spent a lot of time out here as kids from 63 to 72, hunting artifacts when you could legally, and just learning the fort. So the Camino Real was active from the early 1500s, and it was basically the I-25 of back then. It was the way that people traveled to trade from Mexico City to Santa Fe, and then it went on up to Denver. And it had spurs off of it that dropped down off the main trail to places like Fort Craig. To get water, to get food, and in order to keep on traveling. So the fort was here not just for the El Camino Real, but for the inhabitants of the area. And the fort itself is 1/8 of a mile west of the Rio Grande. And actually the Rio Grande was even closer back in its day because the Rio Grande has shifted to the east. So yeah, it's only 1/8 of a mile off the backside of the fort.
So I'm sitting here babysitting a time lapse. It's kind of breezy, and I got my chair. I got my camp chair. So I guess I'm pretty comfortable. Got my snacks and drinks. Perrier, my snacks, and doing pretty good. Fascinating. There's the flagpole.
Yeah, the Fort Gregg history and the Civil War. Probably one of the major and most important battles occurred right here at Fort Gregg, the Battle of Valverde. The battle itself involved 3,800 Union troops and 2,500 Confederates. It lasted a full day. It was a victory for the Confederates. However, they did not take the fort. They weren't able to, they didn't have the gunpowder, they didn't have the manpower to take the fort. So they left the fort in their rear. So people these days say that the battle itself was a victory for the Union in today's standards because of the fact that he left the fort in the rear. So you had Colonel Canby, who was the Union commander. He wasn't just the commander at the fort, but he was the commander of the New Mexican Territory. General Sibley was the Confederate. He sold the story that he was going to come west and take New Mexico and Arizona Territory, the gold mines up in Denver, and then move across to California. That was his whole sell, was to take the gold mines.
Didn't find gold.
Not gold.
Just rocks. Black. One black side.
think I figured out what that is.
So Fort Craig's today is an interesting site, especially if you're interested in the forts of the time. It doesn't have a lot still standing, however, there's a lot still there underground. The few buildings that are standing, the guardhouse at the Sally Port and the commanding officer's quarters, and then the impressive storehouses that Sibley was after are still standing to where you can really get an idea how big they were.
I can't do anything. I'm still Toby Michael unit.
You can do it from there.
What is missing really with New Mexico and this site is they're not tying the fort to the battlefield well enough. So I think we need to tie those two together better because they're so important. Not just the fact that we're here for the Indians, but this particular battle was extremely important. So that would be one thing. Another cool thing to know about this fort and the battle is it was the only fort battle that participated in a land surcharge in the Civil War, the total Civil War. So there was a land surcharge done by the Confederates, and they were repelled, of course, but it was the only one that ever happened in the Civil War. It was right here.
Dinner time.
Come here, this is the way I like my green chili cheeseburgers. Rather than trying to put chili on, then hit it with ketchup and mustard and mayo and all that other stuff. Just get this. The guac is an extra added touch. How's the heat?
Meh. Yeah. Fine.
Fine. Yeah, it's not too much, not too little. Makes a good burger.
Are we going anywhere else today?
So we're coming out for 5. By the time I want to get some drone work done here. So that means we're not going to leave here till 6 probably. That may not give us a chance to stop by San Antonio. I mean,
Birdies?
the birdies at Bosque del Apache. But it's not that far. So the only thing that we wanted to do at Bosque del Apache, we called them and they said that the fields had been flooded, but that the cranes hadn't arrived yet. And when I asked them when they thought would be a better time, they said the first week in November. But we're about, I don't know, I'm gonna guess 10 or 15 miles south of them on the same road on Route 1. So we just may head up in that direction to see if there's anything going on at all, because sunset is when they start peaking. We've had wind and very little sunshine all day, and now that we're sitting, the wind has died down and the sunshine has come out a little bit. I mean, it's still not great.
Still very cloudy.
But I'd like to get the drone up so that you can see an overview of the fort, because I think that would be a really cool shot.
We have donuts, pumpkin spice donuts for dessert that my husband made.
Sorry, store name.
Kevin didn't want us to forget about him while we were on our day trip, so he brought us these donuts the other day, and we brought them here for dessert. Yummy.
What's our Amazon store?
Eat those after I finish my burger.
You can do that while I'm cleaning up.
It's the other way around. Stored up video here. Stop the video now. All right.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to go ahead and talk. I'm going to answer some of their questions.
Okay. Well, it was a windy day, but we enjoyed being outdoors. I think it was a good day to be out and get the fresh air and look at all the flowers and
and it got progressively more mild towards the afternoon. By the time we were eating, although we had a shelter, a little picnic shelter, by that time the wind had died down pretty much, and as you could see, we were getting a little bit of sunshine, and we hadn't shot the drone footage yet. And the reason that you saw Shelley holding that anemometer is that we don't usually fly drones in winds that are greater than 20 miles an hour, or they're gusting higher. And as a matter of fact, the Siri inside the drone will tell you it's too unstable out here, and she'll land. She'll go back to her starting point. But it got progressively more mild, and the winds dropped, and we were able to get some drone footage. I want to show you something here, because I did shoot some footage of how far it was from the Rio, and I'm trying to remember if it was this video here. I didn't put it into. Hang on, just a second. It's starting by itself. There's no audio with this because it was shot on the
you
drone.
can do it from there. You just have to tell it where it's at.
Oh, could I? All right.
Mhm.
Well, keep talking while I'm doing this, would you please?
We noticed that the river wasn't too far away. We couldn't actually really see the river, but we could see a lot of trees. And you're looking at the Rio Grande when you're seeing a bunch of cottonwood trees surrounding it, and that was the case there. So yeah, they weren't very far from the river, which makes sense because they had a large group of people there at that fort, and they needed water for them.
And you could imagine this time, the other thing that he wanted to talk about was the fact that this was a Puebloan site, a Native American Puebloan site before it was fort, that the Puebloan tribes were there as early as the 1200s, before, the Mexicans started moving. At the time, the Spanish started moving, and then followed by the Mexicans. So it was a perfect site for that, because as you're standing there, you could actually smell the river. How you can kind of, and it wasn't that far off. But you could also tell that at one point it was a great place so they used the river, and they built irrigation canals from the river so that they could grow crops. But it was also that kind of desert land that you could see not only flora, but fauna, deer, white-tailed deer and antelope. It looks like the kind of country that they'd be happy in. So there was a lot of game, not to mention the small game there, but you could see how it was perfect for the Puebloan tribes. The Puebloan left the tribes that were living there, and they were not Tiwa, they were Pilo. They left in around 1690 after the Pueblo Revolt, and they moved north because that's where the tribes were moving. And a lot of the tribal land that we have around here, Santa Ana, Santa Clara, et cetera, they have some of that heritage in them, excuse me. But let me share this. So I won't play the whole thing, but what I did is, when he mentioned that it was only 1/8 of a mile away, I decided to take the drone in that direction. And the first thing that you cross is a canal that was built by the federal government that's used for irrigation and to manage the river. And then you'll see the Rio Grande, and I did a little footage of that. I'm just going to play it real quick, and I may not play the whole thing. for you. But so the first thing that you see is the canal. And what we were trying to figure out is how to get on that road. So this is, I think that's reverse. I'm coming back. I played the wrong one. It's on the gun.
Yeah, it's close enough.
So, well, the other one has the river in it.
Oh, I thought that was the river.
No, that was the canal, and this was my return to home. So I was coming back and I was just recording it. Okay, I don't want to play that one.
Take your ball
Let
and go
me
home.
Close. I'm going to close.
Just remove.
That. Remove from studio.
There you go.
And let me go do the other one,
All
which
right.
makes more sense.
So we did end up going to, after dinner and after doing the drone, we did go to the Bosque del Apache. We drove around the loop, the northern loop, and we saw ducks, but we didn't see any cranes. We hit it right at sunset.
And the other thing too is the fields weren't all flooded. The ones towards the front of the preserve, towards the road, Route 1, there was a little bit of flooding there, but the locations where the cranes usually land, they weren't flooded yet. They weren't even close. I mean, they were still dry, and the acequias that they used to flood them were still filled. And when they let the acequia run and flood the fields, those acequias go dry, because I've stood on the top of one during the period. So we're looking probably the first, maybe the second week in November to go there, because that's when they'll get there. That's when the fields are flooded, and that's when the best photography is. So we'll go back then. So let me answer a couple. Wait, let me see if I can play this, because I want to. So this is the one that I flew
Out towards the river.
Right. Well, this was towards the Mesa de Contadera, the Contenders Mesa. And it was just the other side of this where the Battle of Valverde was fought. And then it moved south towards the fort. Can I actually move this forward? Let me see. I'm now, so I've turned, and now I'm heading south and west from the fort. Let me see. I want to get to the river so that you guys can see it.
You're not west of the fort. You're east of the fort.
East of the fort. I'm sorry. So this is the canal, and it's like the biggest water feature that you notice until you cross over the canal using that bridge that I showed you in the previous video as I was coming back. The previous video was the flight back from this direction. And I was kind of worried because I couldn't see the Rio Grande at this point. You know, I couldn't find it in the drone, and I have a pretty good size screen. But as you turn slightly, and this is headed towards the south, there you can see the river coming into view. And by this time, there's water in it, but by this time, it's a much smaller river than we're accustomed to when we go north. So that's the Rio Grande, or as we like to call it, the muddy Rio Grande. But there's a place a little bit further downriver, and you'll see it. So when you see me do this, I'm just trying to get my bearings. I'm aiming straight down so I can get my bearings, and then you'll see the camera go up. Shelley, like, she knows this is not the best shot in the world. And if she's looking over my shoulder, she'll say, change the camera, you know, tilt the camera up. And she does. Because this isn't the best shot. Although we did some pretty good footage with yesterday with our visitors. We went to the Willow Creek recreation area, and we shot some of the cottonwoods.
More Rio Grande.
Yeah, more Rio Grande in the cottonwoods. So again, this is unedited, and that's why it looks a little bit sloppy. So you'll see that the river and the canal cross over each other. And right after I took this shot, it was getting late. The wind was coming back up. But I thought it was interesting that they built the canal on an aqueduct over the river. And they're both used for irrigation. This goes all the way down to Las Cruces, and they use it for irrigation. And it was just about this time that the DJI Siri was telling me that you're down with batteries, and she'll tell you that you got to turn around. So
time to go home.
Time to go home, she'll say. So that was a lot of fun. We got some great drone footage. I probably shot about 15 or 20 minutes worth of drone footage for as late as it was. And I was real pleased with the results. We not only got video footage, but we also got still images. And we went back and we told the gentleman, Mark, that if he wanted any of them to send me an email. He had my business card at that point, and I would share that with him. And I got an email the following morning. So I'm going to put those in a Dropbox for him. So let's go back and answer some questions. Let's see. Here we go. I bet some interesting artifacts were found at this location. I agree with you because it's so far off the beaten path that when there were people looking for this, and I think you had to be in the know. His mother was one of the women that was doing historical research on the Jornada del Muerto, the Royal Road, and the forts that were, this is not the only fort that was there, the forts along the way. So she knew all these locations before they were absorbed by the Bureau of Land Management. So when they're absorbed by the Bureau of Land Management, of course, they're going to have regulations governing how the artifacts are treated. Now, I've been on BLM locations. There's one up north off the Rio Grande, and they have kind of weird rules. You can dig up to 12 inches, and if you find artifacts at 12 inches, you can keep them. There's nothing there. They've been artifact to death. But this one has the no artifacts rule. So I guess because it's not only BLM, but it's a national historic site. It was interesting. So the BLM is part of the Department of Interior, but this site is not a national park site, which of course has an even higher level of rulemaking associated with it. So John, that grill, and it's in our store. It's on our Amazon store. So I'm going to post a link and you can go there and buy it. It's not going to cost you anything extra. We just get a little commission from the sale. So, but let me show it to you here. Oh, I need to share that one.
Screen.
Share that screen again. Hold on. Give me a sec. Share screen. And I want that one. Okay. Yeah, thank you. See, I don't know what I do without you here to tell me how to go to this stuff. That's a good, so what is the grill called? So the grill is called the Gas One, and it's a heck of a grill. It's very compact. You can use the butane canisters or propane. And I choose the propane just because I have a bunch of those canisters for my other grill, which is tremendously bigger. This one with propane will put out like 15,000 BTU with, with propane, it'll do 15,000 BTU. With butane, the smaller containers, it'll do from 10 to 12,000 BTU, which is pretty hot. It's got a beautiful blue flame with it. I mean, it heats up really, really quick. I didn't do it, but there was a guy on YouTube that did a water test, 1 pint of water, how long it took it to boil. And it took 3 minutes and 42 seconds to boil, which is pretty fast for, a stove of this type. The other thing I like about it, you can see it. Oops, I can't do it right. Can I do this? Yeah. There's an integrated windscreen. And for those of you that do any kind of cooking on gas grills outside, one of the biggest challenges is that the wind will blow out the flame, and it doesn't take much. It doesn't take 15 or 20 miles an hour to do it. It'll do it at 5 to 7 miles an hour. But this one has actually 2 windscreens embedded in it. One is on the outside, as you can see there, and one, to a lesser extent, is on the inside. Which I can't show you because if I move my cursor in that direction, it's going to just go blank on it. Let's say, yeah, see, can't do it. So it's right there where my cursor is, and that makes it really convenient. It doesn't blow out. I mean, you would have to have 30-mile-an-hour winds to, blow it out. The other thing is there is a version that was both propane and butane, and it came with a hose. You can actually buy it. It's a little bit less expensive, but it has a hose for the propane. This one has this hard adapter, and it made it much easier to use. And it's really good to cook on, especially if you have that Jean-Pierre pan that I use. You have one of those and this stove. Next time I told Shelley we're going to do steaks the next time. So I highly recommend it. Let me put the link in the window for you here. I mean, in the chat window, so you can get. I'm going to put it right here.
Just go to the store, which is store.videotarot.com.
Oh my God! Look at
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could just go to store.videotero.com, and this is
And
under the
outdoor
cooking
or-
kits. Let me
Yeah,
see.
cooking kit, field
Yeah.
cooking kit.
Field cooking kits. I also have that, for those of you that noticed, I also have that Kershaw knife. And it's actually a folding fillet knife, but it keeps a sharp edge forever and ever. And it's very compact. And because it's folded, it's just a very cool knife. And that's kind of my cooking in the field knife. So it's on there as well. And I highly recommend it. It just, you don't have to saw through everything. It just cuts it. So let me see. What was that cream cheese?
Sour cream and green chili, right?
So it's got flavors in it, right? So it's a green chili dip, and it's made by a company called Creamland. And I think Creamland is a New Mexico company. I don't know if they sell products outside New Mexico, but it's Creamland green chili dip. And most green chili dips that you buy don't have any heat with them. They use a mild brand of green chili. This one uses hatch green. So when you spread it on something, not only it's more tasty than mayo or ketchup or mustard. I don't like ketchup and mustard on my green chili cheeseburgers, but it has all the flavor of the green chili. It has all the heat of the green chili, and then it has that nice touch of the sour cream. And then the other stuff was just the Yucatan. I actually shot this, and I decided not to use in the video because it was getting kind of long. The guacamole was the Yucatan guacamole, and it's flavored too. They add flavors to it, and it's got a lot of heat. Between the two of those, you've got a really good green chili cheese. We should just call them, from now on, I'm just going to call it a GCC, green chili cheese, to shorten it.
We had burgers.
So yeah, we had burgers, and it was fun. We've finished up, cleaned up, had the donuts that Kevin had made for us. And then we did about half hour, 45 minutes of drone work until it got close to dark. And they don't like you flying after sunset. And the DJI firmware will tell you it's getting close to sunset.
Yep, we saw a pretty sunset.
Yeah.
The clouds and the
What are they called?
corpusculars.
Crepuscular rays. Yeah. So it was a good trip. It was a fun trip. It was very off the beaten track. I mean, it was way out in the boonies. But it's on Route 1 as you go south. And the nice thing about that is we could drive up Route 1 until we got to the Bosque del Apache Wildlife Preserve. So good trip. We got home late. I mean, we got home towards 9-ish that night.
Yeah, but it has it's got the little visitor center,
Yeah.
and it's got the picnic places and the bathrooms and
and
the
Mark-
big parking lot.
Mark was very helpful. I mean, they've got a huge parking lot. They've got, real bathrooms, not just, what do they call them? Porta potties.
Yeah.
They're real bathrooms, big parking lot. They have 2 covered picnic areas that seem to be facing in the right direction for the wind. And then they have a picnic table that I watched a poor set of souls try to use to eat their dinner on, and it was just too windy. They had to go back into the picnic area. So nice place, very well maintained, very informative. The signage was great. So like you didn't have to look at something and try to figure out what it was. They had signs placed everywhere. And then in addition to that, there were signs that talked about natural history, right? What you're looking at in terms of flora and fauna. There were signs that talked about the Puebloans that were there before the fort was there. So the whole trek, there's a path that walks you around that this guides you with. And by the time you've left, we got there around noon. We left about 6. And you say to yourself, how can you spend that much time? Well, we had to get footage.
It was actually quite a long walk to
Yeah,
go
it was.
all the way around.
Yeah, we got our steps in. That's how long a walk it is. So,
Well,
all right.
It's a nice trail. It's gravel, so you want to wear steady shoes, but it's not climbing or anything.
Yeah, it's flat as a
and
pancake.
we didn't see any animals of any kind other than maybe a lizard and a grasshopper.
There are signs warning of you of snakes, but it's not the time of the year.
Yeah.
And you have plenty of visibility. Like if they were to come out, they'd come out. The path is probably 7 or 8 feet wide. And
Yeah,
it's
it's a
and
good
it's
sized
packed.
path.
It's gravel, packed
Yeah.
gravel. So it's a
Well maintained place.
well maintained. Yeah, very
Yeah,
nicely.
definitely worth going if you're interested in Civil War history or the Indian Wars or any of that kind of thing. There was a man there from Holland
Mhm.
who came in, and because he's very interested in the Native Americans and
Mhm.
all of that.
Well, it was interesting because he seemed to know, the guy from Holland seemed to know more about the location than Mark did, and I thought Mark was pretty knowledgeable considering his mother introduced him to the place, and he is the host. This guy had done some more detailed study in it, and he was there to check it out. And at some point, there was a poster on the wall. You might have seen it when we were talking to Mark initially, and one of the Native American features of this area is that Victorio, who was a notorious Apache war chief, had come through there and had made trouble for the fort and the people on it. And there was a picture of Victorio, or what we believe to be Victorio. And what happened is Mark and this gentleman were talking about it, and the gentleman said, "Oh, by the way, that's not Victorio." And Mark looked at him like, "Oh, you're crazy. This is Bureau of Land Management. We don't make mistakes like." He didn't actually say that, but he was surprised to hear that. And the gentleman from Holland said, "No, that everybody thinks that's Victorio. That's not his picture. Look it up." Like, oh, this guy's done his research. So it was just interesting to hear him talk.
Take
What?
that coming off the screen, and
I have to go back to do
what
that.
else happened?
I think that's it. There was a book that was twice as thick thick as this, and it was entitled "The Civil War in New Mexico," and talk about details.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing.
Mark's mother and father, actually, both of them are the ones that originally made that model, and then they renovated it a little bit in 1989. So, because they originally made it in 1963 when he was young, he was telling us about the model itself and how it was built, and so very much in his family. His mom actually wrote some of the stuff in some of those books.
She's cited in this book.
Yeah. So yeah.
So-
So it's in the family.
Yeah, it's a
Very
family
cool.
thing. What else? Got anything else before
I can't
start
think of
turning
anything
things off
else.
here?
No.
There goes the banner.
So we hope you enjoyed that trip to Fort Craig outside of.
No, it's not outside of anything.
What was that town? Started with an M.
San Marcial.
San Marcial. That's it.
Marcial. Marcial. They all pronounce it
Marshall.
Marshall, right? But it's Marcial. It's a Spanish name.
Okay. So yeah, if you're down in the Socorro area, it's something to see.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. It's worth a visit. If nothing else, get the challenge going. It's only $20. So,
Yep.
All right. We will see you. We'll see you tomorrow. Shelley will be on at 11 o'clock with Jan for Women Conquer Business. With Jan for Women Conquer Business. What's your topic tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're talking about the product ladder.
Oh.
Something for everyone.
Man.
The product ladder.
So Jan gets the ideas for these. Jan gets the ideas for these shows.
Yeah.
Huh. This is pretty amazing.
Yep.
And then we'll be on at 1 o'clock with Messages and Methods. We have an interview tomorrow with a gentleman whose name is.
Jason Bernard.
And what's his specialty?
SERP.
SERP.
And
that is not a malpronunciation of the word syrup. It's SERP. SERP. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk with him. And then we won't see you again until next week. Shelley's show at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays. We'll be back Wednesday at 7 p.m. with a new New Mexico. I don't know if it's going to be a day. Well, it's going to be a day trip one way or the other. But I think I'm fascinated with how these detours are put together. So we're going to pick one, I think, and we're gonna figure out how to shoot it. That's the problem, because these weren't designed for shooters. They were designed for tourists. So, and I mean shooters in the digital video sense, as opposed to the we're going to shoot the place up with. So we may have something different for you next week. The week after that is going to be all about Dia de los Muertos. So we're going to visit 3 different events for Dia de los Muertos on 3 different days. So,
And you might be wondering, well, Halloween is coming and it's on Monday. Why aren't you doing it this week? Or even next week? But actually, Dia de los Muertos is on November 6th. Is that correct?
well, the event that we're going to is November 8th. I haven't checked it. Dia de los Muertos traditionally is on November 1st.
First,
Or no. Dia de los
Second.
Santos is first. Dia de los Muertos is the second. But I guess they wanted to have it on a weekend. So,
Right.
and it fell inconveniently on something other than a weekend.
Yeah.
So
they're having some events this weekend. They're having some events next weekend. And to get it all, we need to do both.
and if Kevin shares the recipe for the pumpkin spice donuts, we'll share it with you because they were
That's an idea, yeah.
amazingly good. Amazingly good. All right,
right.
say your goodbyes.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope that you enjoyed our show. Please give us some comments to let us know what you think, if we should
That's your
continue to
moment, right?
add the cooking and recipes and all of that, if that was of interest to you, or if that you have another idea for something even better.
Well, I like the cooking. I mean, we're going to do it anyway.
I like
so,
the eating.
so if we're going to do it
I have
anyway,
snacks in
might
the
as
back.
well.
Oh, I've got
Yeah.
snacks here in my chair. Oh, now
But-
I'm eating dinner.
But this
Eating
was
all
the first
day.
time I've tried out that Gas One grill, and I was like, will this do a steak? It'll definitely do a steak. So next time, I think we're going to have a little bit of steak, a little bit of some sort of flavored rice, and a vegetable salad.
Wow.
That sounds like all.
It's got it all planned out.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
All right, guys. We will see you tomorrow if you join us on Messages and Methods. All right. Good night. I love you.
Bye.